Okay, we went through all the visual data tools and you know how to get data into your charts either as a standalone scene and or using an Excel sheet or some sort of database using the data reader. Though we got all the data into it and you know how to set it up now, we didn't spend much time at all talking about the design and enhancing the design or look of your charts. One thing that we want to do is talk about how to add labels, and once you know how to do it for one of these, you can pretty much do it for each one of these because they all work the same with the exception of perhaps the stock chart, which we'll show you as well. So to begin, let's start with a bar chart here, and we're just going to again create some data. So we're going to go into our container plugins. We're going to use the data storage. So we're going to click on our data storage plugin and we're going to go into our shared memory, change that from inactive to seen. Our first set of variables here is our X data going across the bottom. So I'm just going to spread this out by tens so that it will increase up by 10 here for each bar that we have within our chart. So next I want to add some Y data. So I'm going to label this data Y and we'll just type in some random numbers for this one as well. Alright, now we need to go into our bar chart. Just make sure we have our shared memory from inactive to seen. We have our key data here, which we want to make data Y. And as soon as we do that, you can see it fills in our bar chart here. We have our data delimiter set as a comma. So let's just move our bars over here a while. And next, what we want to do is add some labels. And we can do that by using this plugin here called Data Label, which is found within the built-ins in the container plugins and the Visual Data Tools. So we can take this data label and drag it up onto our bar chart. For a data label, we're also going to need some sort of font. So I'm going to go into my server, look for any type of font that I want to use, and we are going to drag it as a subcontainer of our bar chart. So here's the font. Let's just move this down a little bit. We can scale it if we want to. We're just going to leave it as is like that for now. Just make sure that your container is a child of the bar chart container here. So we're going to go into the data labels and we want to change our shared memory to scene. We're going to use our data Y variable for this one. We have our data delimiter, which is a comma. Now we're going to come down to the bottom of this plugin, and where it says copy container, we're going to turn that on. We're going to come over into our bar chart container. I'll just close that up for a second because what we're going to do is go into our storage. We're going to resend that data, and now you can see that we have multiple labels here. And if we open up this container, you can see that it copied all of those containers to correspond to the number of bars that we have within our scene. If we go back into the data label, there are some adjustments here that we have to make. First, at the bottom of the plugin, we have a position X, which is off by default. We can also change this to range and or data. If we change it to range, we get two more options here, an offset X, which will move it left and or right. We also have a distance X, which we can spread it out. You can also come in here and type in numbers if you don't want to use the little click and drag method. Now that we have it spread out on our X, we can come up to the decimal places and choose how many decimals we want. By default, it's set to 2. If we want to turn it down to 1 decimal and or 0, we just have to click there. So now we can come down and spread your distance out a little bit more if need be. We also have a position Y, which is off by default. We can change this to range, and you can see how it steps up once we do that. And we can also change it to data, which will follow the height of the bars. We can adjust the data or the position Y of these numbers using the offset Y, so we can move it above or below. And we also have a position Y, which is off by default. We can change that to range and or data again, and if we change it to range, we have the offset Z, which will move this forward and backwards in Z space, and a distance Z, which is moving the numbers on the right forward and backwards. So to enhance this a little bit further, what we can do, as we mentioned, we can also use a material on these. So you could drop any type of material on it, and notice that the numbers take it on the material because it's on the parent container. If you want to override the numbers, you just need to drag a material onto each one of those individual fonts if you want to do it like that, to recolor or have a separate color from your bars. Furthermore, if you wanted to add some type of image on here as well, you could certainly add that to the containers as well, and it would act just like any other texture map on any other primitive. So you could come in and change your mapping from linear to reflection or vertex or however you need it, and then again change your scaling and or position of the texture if need be too. To further enhance the design is just a standalone bar chart now. What you can also do is add other visual elements, and of course we have some groups that we merged earlier here, so we can drag these within the scene here, and if I come up and right click on here, we can either split this container and or use the merge and split button up there, and you can see that this container is really just made up of a rectangle which is pushed all the way back in Z space. So it kind of gives us a little bit of a background to work with. This background is just an image on it, so you could certainly replace that with any other image that you need. You could also do things with the help of other plugins too. So if we wanted to create shadows, for instance, what we have here is another grouped object, and if we just again split this container, you can see that it's just made up of two noggies, and it's got a material and an image on it. So if we scale this group up together, what we're going to do is use this as a backplate here to cast and or receive shadows. You can see within this background that we already have the receiver on it. So if we were to come into our global folder within our plugin, and the caster and receiver work together, so if we were just to drag the caster onto our bar chart, you can see now it now casts shadows. So depending how you want to adjust this, you could adjust the background here, and by moving it forward and or backwards in Z space, you can see where the shadow goes. If you want it to fall on the plates there, you could move it back in Z space and or readjust this background as need be. Again, once you do have your charts, you know, they act like any other primitive. You could come in here and then rotate these, reposition them, or scale them however you need. The bar chart, as you can see, is 2D now, and if you wanted to make that 3D, you could simply come back into the bar chart, and you have this selection for corners here. And if we increase the corner amount, you can now see that that will make this 2D bar chart 3D. And if you keep increasing the corners, you could even make these like columns or cylinders if need be. So from here, it's just a matter of going in and playing with the other settings to get the bar chart where you need. In the next tutorial, we'll show you another option to create labels and or another way to enhance the design.